Now, before this video begins, I just want to say this is not the full video, but just a small little peek at a video that I'm currently working on that is probably going to be released next week or the week after next week. So be sure to subscribe to not miss it. In the night, Charles arrived with his cavalry, bolstering the small force, and when the day broke, despite still being heavily outnumbered, he ordered a full frontal assault on the city walls. You might be wondering about Charles's plan here. He was besieging one of the most fortified cities in Europe, the capital of one of the richest empires in Europe, while being outnumbered 2-1. Well, actually, he had a pretty good reason to believe he had an advantage here. You see, there's something you have to know about Muryol at this time. The Venayans had actually been at war with the Burkhantan Sultanate for the last 2 years, greatly depleting their manpower. In fact, much of the Venayan defending army at Muryol were actually mercenaries bought by the nobles, who kept them in the city citadel for much of the battle. And on top of this, politically, Muryol was a mess. You see, Muryol was a huge trading hub, one of the reasons the Venayans were so rich. And being a huge trading hub meant that a small majority of the population were actually of European descent and were viewed below the native Turks. Because of this, there were large class divisions in the population. There were 2 major factions, the Turkish Red Houses and the European Yellow Houses. Now, Muryol, despite being the capital of the empire, was actually technically autonomous, having its own governor and parliament separate from the Sultanate, which was constantly moving locations due to wars it was fighting. This parliament wasn't democratic, though. Instead of being elected, they were appointed by the governor, a hereditary position. For the last 4 years, the governor had been Tevfik, a person known for discriminating against Europeans. As such, almost all of the parliament were radical Turkish nobility. This parliament was not well liked by the Yellow Houses, since they were always passing laws targeted against them. For example, the Red Houses were allowed to live wherever they wanted, but the parliament passed laws that contained the Yellow Houses to just the southern portion of the city. On top of this, there were also 2 major ports in Muryol, one in the north and one in the south. The parliament had recently built 5 bridges they claimed were the connected islands to the main city. Although this purpose was achieved, it did not go unnoticed that the bridges were placed explicitly to block ships from traveling to the southern port. Due to all of this infighting, the defenses of the city were rather lopsided, with there being less guards and less fortifications to the southeast, where the Yellow Houses lived. Charles knew this, and thus, when he ordered the full frontal assault on Muryol, he led his veteran cavalry to the far eastern wall. Upon seeing his troops, the Yellow Houses actually embraced his arrival, opening the gates and aiding the troops. In the city, many Yellow Houses also barricaded large streets to sabotage the Venayan defense efforts. Some even took up arms and directly attacked the Venayan troops.